Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of MSATP TV. Joining us again this week is Rob Smith, and he's going to be talking about task and to-do lists with using Microsoft To Do. So, Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Okay, well, yeah, go ahead and share my screen, Walter. Yeah, basically what we're going to be talking about today is that we've been talking about Microsoft OneNote, and last week we talked about emails and messages and stuff like this, but today we're going to kind of talk about tasks and how do tasks kind of integrate with Microsoft OneNote. But to understand how that integration works, we're actually have to go back to Microsoft or to Outlook tasks, and then Outlook tasks are actually the same thing as Microsoft To Do, which kind of sounds very confusing, but once you're, in about half an hour, hopefully it'll be a lot more clear. So let's kind of go ahead and get started. You ready, Bill?
Sure.
Okay. So once again, my name is Rob Smith. I work at Liscio, and I had my own practice, ran my own firm, did it for a number of years. And the reason I kind of hopped over to Liscio is because at Liscio, we care about from start to all the way to the end and making sure that your process all syncs together, because if only half your process works, then the whole thing doesn't work. So here I am trying to teach you how to use 365, because Liscio can get you the documents, but then what do you do after the documents? And that's why I'm here today teaching you some stuff.
Okay.
So last week we talked about emails, meetings, and contacts. These are some of the things that we talked about. If you did not watch that, go back and watch that video there. But today we're going to be talking about tasks. But one of the things that I want to do is tasks is a loaded word, because if I ask you what a task is, you're going to give me one definition. If I ask Walter, he'll give me a different definition. So tasks are so broad that I'm talking about a task management and you're thinking of a completely different type of task.
Right.
So the first thing we're going to do is kind of define the tasks we're actually going to be talking about today. Okay.
Okay.
So there's really three major kind of tasks by ownership. There's individual tasks, firm tasks, and project or event tasks. Okay. Individual tasks are tasks that only you are worried about. Nobody else cares how you manage your day-to-day. Okay. Now, some of us are organized. Bill, are you organized or not really? Can you manage your tasks?
Not really. I manage a calendar.
You manage a calendar. Okay. Well, with all the different tasks coming at me, I've always had a difficulty of how do I manage all these tasks? So I'm not really organized. Firm tasks are something different. Those are based on your role. So my role is the bookkeeper, and I have these tasks based on my role. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then also tasks that get assigned to you. So I may go in there and my partner, or I may either assign a staff member a task, a one-off. Hey, can you please do this? How do you do this right now? Walk down the hall and yell at them and say, or send them an email, say, how do you do it, right?
Yep.
It's like, how many of those actually get done, and how can you keep track of all those things?
I can't.
Yeah, exactly right. So there's firm tasks, and then there's project tasks or event tasks. That there's these set of tasks that have to happen whenever this project or event happens. Okay. So those are the different types of tasks. Now, not only are we going to define tasks that way, there's a bunch of other things that kind of go along with the task. Does the task happen once, or does it repeat? Is it a must do, or is it a should do? Are there consequences if it's missed? Does it have a due date, or is it open-ended? Do you need a reminder with lead time? Do you know how to do the task? Or whoever you're going to delegate it to, do they know how to do the task? Do you know where the required materials are to do that task? Do you need to be in a required place to do it? And do there need to be other people with you to actually get it done? So if you think about it, task management is really complex in a lot of different questions, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's not real simple and easy. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to solve all these problems in half an hour. If we did, we'd be millionaires. But one of the things I'm going to recommend is that you read the book, Getting Things Done. Okay. It's a great book. It talks about the 5 steps of managing your workflow. But basically, at the core of the thing, what he's saying is gather all of your open loops, all of your tasks, which are kind of open loops, things that haven't been done, you need to close the loop. Gather them in the fewest number of buckets possible. So everything you have to do, put it somewhere where you know where that task reminder is. That's all. That's really what this book is saying. And there's a bunch of other stuff too, but that's really the key. Make sense?
Now, is that Outlook or is that Microsoft To Do?
Well, we're going to get there in a second. Okay, but yeah, that's exactly right. We're going to try to find for your tasks in one bucket. Okay, now which tasks are we? We're not talking firm. We're not talking project or event. We're talking just your individual tasks today, Bill. Okay. So I forget all those other type of tasks. All I'm focusing on tasks that you need to do for you and nobody else.
Okay.
Where the bucket we're going to use is Outlook tasks. So if you go into Outlook, now it's either at the bottom or in this case, I have the newer version of Outlook. And so it's going to be on the side. So if you come up underneath here, see that little, that blue check mark?
Yep.
That is going to be in Outlook. So if you open up Outlook, it's either at the bottom or it's along the left panel, depending on which version of Outlook you have. You could go ahead and click that blue check mark. Okay. And when you do, you're going to see something that looks like this. My day, important, planned, assigned to me, flagged. And you're going to see this thing called tasks. This is where that bucket of all your tasks are going to go.
Okay.
And you see how I've got 4 tasks right there, right?
Right.
So whenever I collect these tasks, that's where it's going to go. Okay. Now, this is what a task is going to look like inside of Outlook. I'm going to show you a demo in just a second, but this is exactly kind of what the task looks like. You're going to be able to go in there. Okay. So the task that I've got up here is my work on my getting things done lunch and learn. Okay. So it's one of the lunch and learns that I want to basically create. The steps, I can actually do sub-steps. Okay, I can do steps. I got to read the book. I got to prepare the outline. I got to work on the PowerPoint. Okay, because this task is going to take multiple steps.
Okay.
I can put a reminder. I can put a due date. I can mark if it repeats. I can pick a category to be able to categorize it a different way if I need more versions of categories. Okay, I can add a file attachment or a note. So I'm going to be able to have a lot of information about that task in one spot, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. And the reminders, I can even do reminders of both date and time. And then under the repeats, I can do daily, weekdays, weekly, monthly, yearly, or custom. Okay. So now one bucket for tasks, maybe I can't organize well enough. So what I'm going to be able to do is go in and create lists. So underneath here, I have a community list, internal training list, a shopping list, and a household chores list. Now, the two below, shopping or household chores, are more personal in nature. So what I did there was I created a list group, moved the shopping list and the household chores list underneath my personal group. Okay.
How do you do that?
I'm going to show you in just a sec. Okay. But basically, we're going to kind of come through, and then what I can do is move the tasks out of the task group and move it down to the list. So let's actually take a look at that in real life. So for example, so I'm over here and I've got Outlook, right? I'm going to click this button right there for the blue check mark. And here is my Outlook tasks. Now, remember I said Outlook tasks or Microsoft To Do?
Yes.
This is essentially Microsoft To Do.
Right.
It's one of the same thing. So if I come in here and I open Microsoft To Do, okay, so if I come in here and open up Microsoft To Do, you see this right here? This is essentially the same thing. So on the left here is actually, I'm in Outlook. This right here is the Microsoft To Do program, which is basically just Outlook tasks. Okay, see how they mirror right there? Okay, but we'll get to Microsoft To Do in a second. But all I can come in here, so if I wanted to create a task, I can just come in here, click right here. And what's a task that I have to, so a task for, I need to basically do a
weekly newsletter.
Pardon?
Weekly newsletter.
Weekly newsletter. Here we go. So I can come in here and go weekly newsletter. Okay, so I can come in here and then click add. So I've got a weekly newsletter right here. So I can click over here. Are there steps? Maybe research.
Yes.
Get info from, Walter.
Right.
Publish, whatever, right? Go through and put all the different steps right there if I want.
Okay.
You need a reminder.
Yes.
Okay, so basically we can come in here and we can remind you every Monday. We can go in there and basically we can go in here and put a reminder on it. Okay. Remind me tomorrow. Add a due date. It's going to be due
Friday.
By Friday. There we go. Does it repeat? It repeats weekly.
Every week.
There we go. Repeats every Friday. And then you could add a file there or put notes right there. And once you've done that, you now have a reminder a task that's going to repeat every week and then let you mark off those 3 steps and always remind you to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So that's going to be sitting right inside here, inside of Outlook or Microsoft To Do. Now, if I want to come down here and instead of having everything buried in tasks here, I want to move it down into, I'm going to call it the community list, because this really relates to kind of community. I can come up to this task right here, right click, move task to, and then I can either move it to any one of these lists right here. So I'm going to move it to my community.
Okay.
So instead of sitting up here in my generic task list, it's sitting right down under here under my community lists.
Gotcha. Okay.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that is how easy it is to add a task right inside of Outlook and To Do, because essentially they're the same thing. Okay. So let's continue. So yeah, so that is basically Outlook tasks. Pretty simple, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Now, what about emails? How many times do you get an email that you got to keep track of?
More than I care to think about.
Exactly right. So now, have you ever used the flag inside of there? Where you
Yes,
flag
I do all the time.
Right, and that works great. But guess what this does? When you flag an email, if it stays just an Outlook in the inbox, yeah, you know that you've got it flagged. But what if you have it? What if you want to add steps to it? What if you want to add a reminder to it? What if you want to add other information? We can turn that flag email essentially into a task. So all you do is right click, or either click the flag or right click on it, go to follow up, and then basically assign a due date on it. Okay. But once you have it flagged inside of To Do, Outlook tasks, or Microsoft To Do, there's a section called flagged email. So every email that you flag is going to show up in this list right here. And it's going to act just like a task where you can add steps, reminders, due dates, etc. Let's take a look at that. So if I come over here and I come into my email, right? And let's say there's this email right here that I want to basically flag. I can come in here, flag it. Okay. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to take a second for it to kind of populate through and kind of sync through. Okay. But right over here inside Microsoft To Do, there's that email I just flagged.
Mm-hmm.
I can click on it. I can add it to my day. I can remind me. I can make it repeat. I can add steps. So think about that. So I flagged an email, but to get this email done, I've got steps. So here I can actually come in and add steps to my flagged email.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, and turn it into a real live breathing task that I can actually manage instead of just having a random flagged email.
Okay.
Okay. So that is how you can work with flagged emails. Okay. Now there's a section here called Assign to Me. What is that? Well, that is where somebody's assigned you something in Microsoft Planner, which is more of a firm-based task list, which we're not going to really talk about. And you'll also see stuff in here that is assigned to you in a shared list, which we'll talk about in just a second. Okay.
All right.
Let's move on, because I don't want to get into any firm assignments, because today all we're talking about is tasks that you need to deal with you. Okay.
Now, can one of your steps be passing that on to somebody else?
Pardon?
Can one of your steps be passing that information on to somebody else?
Yeah, in that case, it could be. Now, there is a way to share a task list, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But if you're going to do something more that's going to really involve the entire team, then that's really where Planner comes in, and that's a different program inside 365. And that's where it's kind of like you're using the wrong tool for the wrong job. It's kind of like, here's a spoon or here's a fork, and now you're trying to use that fork to eat some soup. That's not really what it's intended for. So Microsoft To Do is mainly for you to manage you. Now, you can sometimes use, you can kind of maybe twist the fork around a little bit and kind of get to a soup by maybe turning it into a spork or something, but it's not its initial intent. So in that case, you'd probably want to use Planner instead of Microsoft To Do or Outlook tasks. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So then now that we know we have a list of tasks, because the tasks are either sitting in tasks or one of the lists, right? Everything that you have to do is either in the tasks area, flagged email, or it's going to be sitting down in one of the lists. But how do you prioritize these to make sure that they're actually happening? Okay. Well, the top 3 things here, my day, important, or planned, are not extra tasks that aren't included down below, because basically those three are just a subset, a priority, of everything that is either sitting in assigned to me, flagged emails, the tasks and tasks, or tasks and task list. That makes sense?
Okay.
So you may have 100 tasks that have been assigned to you through Planner, a flagged email, tasks, or tasks and task list, but you may only have maybe 10 of them that have a priority. And those priorities are my day, which means you've assigned that task to something that you want to get done today. Important means you've actually put marked the star on the task, or planned, which means it has a due date. Okay, and let's actually take a look at that. So if we come back into here, we can see planned. This right here is everything that's sitting in this area right here. Planned is everything that's sitting in that has a due date. So
Okay.
it happens to be the same number there, but everything with a due date is going to be sitting up underneath planned. There are two things that I've marked important. So for example, this one right here, I've marked important. And you can see that there's a star right there. So if I want to come underneath here and go to this task right here and mark this as important, because we can't miss this. See this little star right over here on the far right? If I click that star right there, important just went to 3, didn't it?
Yes, it
So
did.
now I've marked that task as important, so then I don't overlook these tasks.
Okay.
Okay. And then there's something called my day. What is my day? Well, I can come in here, click on a task and say, you know what? I want to work on this. I want to basically work on this today. So you see where it says add to my day. I'm going to click on this. And then let's say I want to work on, I want to come over here and then maybe work on this email right here. I can click this and click add to my day. Now, if I go to my day, what I've done is I've taken these two tasks and said, this is what my goal is to get done today. Because I can't handle, this is way too many. I've got task overload here, right?
Right.
But by using my day, this is going to help me focus on exactly what I want to get done today. Okay. And then when the day rolls over, these will leave, and then you'll have a fresh thing, and then you'll see what you're going to tackle the next day.
Okay.
Okay. So that's kind of how you can manage your current stuff there. Okay. So I kept saying Outlook tasks are kind of Outlook. So what you can do is go to the Microsoft Store, download Microsoft To Do, and it looks like this. Make sure it says Microsoft To Do with the blue check mark. Now there's some other apps that look kind of like it. Make sure you download the real Microsoft app. Okay.
Okay.
So download it from the store, and you're also going to want to download it on your mobile device. And then make sure you log in with all your accounts. So in this case right here, I have 3 different accounts. I have a personal account, I have a Lisio account, and then I still have a Robert OneNote account. So I've got those 3 separate accounts. So when I'm logged into Microsoft To Do, I can flip between any of those task lists, whether it's for Lisio, for OneNote, or for personal.
Okay.
Okay. And then also with these lists, you can share personal lists with other 365 accounts. So the way you can share lists with other people is you can share work to work in the same tenant. So if you had a list in To Do that you wanted to share with another employee, you could share that list with that employee and then assign stuff to them. Kind of like Planner Lite. Okay. It's basically it's kind of like a spork where it's not quite a fork, but it's not quite a spoon. So it's kind of a spork. Okay.
Okay.
Planner's the more the firm one, but this is kind of the bridge between the two. And all you have to do is basically kind of click on the list, right click on the list, click share list. They're going to get an invitation list. And once you send that out to them, then you're going to be able to go through there and invite other people into your list. You can also invite your personal list into a work account. You can't go from work to personal, but you can go from personal to work. So work to work or personal to work. So in this case, let's say, for example, you had a shopping list. Well, you could be having you could have a personal shopping list on your personal account, share it with your spouse, and then share it with your work account. So in that way, you've got your shopping list in all 3 places, so you can quickly add and see what you basically need to buy if you're coming home from work. Okay. And this is basically kind of how you do that, where you can go in and assign a task. So for example, you can click on the task item. And then when you do that, you're going to see the assign to right here. You see where you click, I clicked on a ream of paper.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden now there's a new thing called assign to. Well, I can go there and do assign to, and then I could assign it to either myself, which would be my Robert Smith is my personal one, or my Robert. Sometimes when you're counting yourself, you get confused which is your work and which is your personal. But make sure you send it to the right one. But then once you've done that, then Now we can actually assign stuff to people. Okay,
Now,
so
does it matter what version of Outlook you're using?
You're going to be wanting to use Outlook 365. This is going to be, you're going to need to be using Microsoft 365 with this.
Okay, so you're not using the desktop Microsoft.
Oh, no, I am. No, Microsoft, no, the desktop. This is the desktop. So Microsoft 365 does not mean the cloud. Okay.
Okay.
Microsoft 365 means it's not just the cloud. It's stored in the cloud, but you can still use the desktop. Okay. You're just using your Microsoft 365 account. Okay.
Okay.
And then you can also use hashtags. So, for example, inside here, another way to be able to find tags or find tasks is to use hashtags. So you can go in there. So, for example, if there's certain things, because I use this for my shopping list a lot. Okay. Where I'll just be able to go in there, search for something, add it to my list, and then but I've got certain ones where I'll kind of click it as I'll kind of have a shopping list where I have all my lists here. Let me just show that to you real quick. So if I were to come in here, if I were to look at my shopping list right here, okay, let's actually go into to do. I actually closed to do. So right here in my shopping list, I've actually got, here's all the stuff that I want to buy. So if I want to come up underneath here and say, okay, I want to buy, I can't even think of what I want to buy anymore. Milk. So let's say I want to buy milk. I can come in here, search for milk. It's marked, meaning I don't need it. I can just unclick it. And then when I come back to my Walmart list, it's sitting right there. And then when I walk around the store, I just click that I purchased it, and then it pops back off. So all I'm only doing is taking it from completed and uncompleting it and kind of going back and forth.
Okay. And can you copy these from one week to the next or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to really copy it, but all I do is whenever I need something, I just unclick it and bring it back up to there.
Okay.
Okay. But by doing that, I can come in, and then let's say there's certain things that I want to buy at Aldi. Okay. So I can do the hashtag Aldi and then say, okay, these are the things that I'm going to buy at Aldi, unclick those. And now they're basically sitting in my Walmart list, but those are what I actually want to buy at Aldi. Okay. But we can basically use hashtags. So hashtags is another way you can use to kind of keep track of everything that you're doing. Okay. Okay. And then now we've been talking about OneNote. How does OneNote fit into all this? Okay. This is kind of cool. So if we come into OneNote, okay, so this right here, okay, is how I'm going to actually integrate OneNote into Microsoft To Do and Outlook tasks, which are the same thing. Now, there's an old school way to kind of keep track of tasks. One is to have a section called Things to Do. And I have a sheet of paper that says Things to Do. So I can actually go in and I actually have my phone tied to this, which I actually have a screen. Do I have a screenshot of this? Yes, I do. Let me share this real quick. So like right inside here, I've got a section called Things to Do. I have a sheet of paper with some checklist items. I've got the page called Things to Do. And then I pinned that in my recent notes on my phone.
Okay.
So now whenever I go into Microsoft OneNote on my phone, that Things to Do is sitting right at the top of my page. I can click on that, and then this page inside my OneNote comes up, and I can type real quick Things to Do. So instead of going into Outlook and create a whole task, it's just like a sheet of paper. But it's a virtual sheet of paper that I always have with me that I can access really quick right from my phone. So that's kind of old school, right? Or I can think of Things to Do as a manila folder. I could just basically print a page or add a new page and say, here's a task that I need to do, or here's an email that I need to work on, and throw it in this Things to Do. Think of this as a manila folder where you just print everything off or have a sheet of paper for every task and walk around with that manila folder.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It doesn't have all the other stuff, but it's kind of the way we used to do it, right?
Right.
We just had a sheet of paper. We just had one place where we stored all our tasks, and it was there, and then we just took the stuff out as we did them.
Right.
So we can still do old school if we want, but better because we can have it anywhere we want with it. But let's don't go old school. Let's go new school. Okay, well, if we do that, how can we integrate Outlook into OneNote? Well, on the home ribbon, there's something called Outlook Tasks.
Okay.
And this is just like flagging email. So we can come in here and let's say there is an email. Let's say there's an email. I want to come up underneath here. And yes, I flagged this email here, but I want to take notes on this. I want to do a bunch of other stuff with this. I can actually push this email into OneNote because we learned that last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I printed off this email. I put it in this manila folder called Things to Do. Now I want to work on this. Okay. I need to work on this.
Okay.
If it just sits here, it's not going to remind me, is it?
Nope.
But if I come up underneath here and click Outlook Tasks and say this is due tomorrow, I've got a little flag, just like flagging an email. I just flagged this page inside of Microsoft OneNote. So if I come back here, okay, and I come up underneath here and let's sync this to see. Ooh, look at right there. You see this right? This task right here at the top. Guess what that is? That is that OneNote page.
Okay.
I can put a reminder. I can change the due date. I can make it repeat. I can add a file to it. But look at this right here. So I'm going to go off of this page. I'm going to go off that page right there. Come right back here and click on this. Click yes. And it took me right back to that page.
Okay.
So I can flag emails. So think of all the different things basically we can do with this. Okay.
I think it's awesome.
So think about this. So kind of today, kind of what we talked about. We talked about there's different type of tasks that may require different kinds of tools. Think of a spoon versus a fork. We talked about Outlook tasks. We talked about task details and where we can group them into different lists and groups. We talked about flagged emails. When you flag an email, what happens to it and how you can then not just flag it, but prioritize it, make steps. We talked about how you can prioritize your tasks. We talked about really what Outlook tasks are just kind of like the Microsoft To-Do app. It's pretty much the same thing. We talked about how you can share tasks with others, use hashtags to better, fine tune where, kind of group tasks even a third different way. And then we talked about how you can do old school OneNote with just a pen and paper, a virtual pen and paper, and carry it around on your phone with a to-do list, or have a bunch of sheets of paper in a manila folder called Things to Do, just like old school manila folders.
Right.
But then we showed you how you could create a task, which is like flagging an email, which links from Outlook tasks or to do back to that page exactly where you need to be. So if you use these tools right here, do you see how all of a sudden you're finally going to be able to create one place where you can manage all your personal tasks and link everything together, whether it's the piece of paper that you need to go to, it's all falling into that one funnel of Microsoft To Do.
Okay.
So does that, I knew we went through a lot of stuff. We went through, and I'm going to come through and we're going to ultimately have, how do I unshare my screen here real quick? Stop sharing. And then, let me see, because I've got way too many windows open. I apologize. There we go. Yeah. So then basically, so that is one way that you can kind of start to go down that idea of getting things done by moving all those tasks into just one funnel.
And we were discussing putting class together so that people who don't catch all the information as we're going along can go back and listen to the video and get some additional education and training on this. And we'll be working on getting that rolled out soon.
Yeah, basically we're going to come through, give you an executive summary of these courses so you can go right to the exact spot. But then what we're going to do is add, build your executive. We're going to do step by step, not this kind of conversational back and forth, but a very step by step methodical for you to basically implement what you just saw on the screen.
Right. So we're going to try to make it easy for everybody to catch up with this, and we're going to go back to the previous classes that we've done and put some kind of executive summary together so that you can get caught up on that, and that way you can make the most out of Microsoft 365 by using OneNote, Outlook, Access, whatever's there.
Yep, and that's exactly right. Because here's the thing: once you start using it for yourself and for your firm, guess who else needs help on learning how to get it set up? Your clients.
Our clients.
And if you can master this, you now have a brand new revenue consulting stream, because they need this help just as much as you. And if you can become their go-to person for 365 training,
right.
it's
Got
the
it
next.
made.
Yep, you've got it made.
All right, Rob. Well, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. And what are we going to be talking about then?
We're gonna start to delve into Teams, because Teams is the one tool that this is going to be the real game changer. OneNote's a game changer, but Teams brings it all together, and we're going to start talking about what Teams is so much more than Zoom. It really is, and we're going to say this is exactly how you should be using Teams, and we're going to kind of start down the Teams path.
Okay, sounds great. Well, Thank you very much, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.